Well, good morning. You join me today at the Warren Fishery in Essex. Now, I'm normally behind the camera and we were originally meant to be filming Tom Maker, but Tom has bitten into one Kit Kat too many and has actually lost half a tooth. So I filled his place. Anyway, I'm going to get the gear round to the swim and talk you through why I'm in that swim in just a minute. So like I said earlier, we're at the Warren Fishery in Essex and it's my local club lake, and it's a lake that I've fished since I was about 12 years old. The lake's 26 acres in size and it's a mature gravel pit, and the stock ranges from, I'd say, upper double to sort of mid-30s, and there's some really nice original ones in there and a few really nice young fish coming through. So that leads me on to why I've actually chosen the swim that I'm in. Now, this is my first session this year, and this time last year, I actually did a session in this swim and had a couple of fish out. I know you shouldn't preempt a swim as such, but I've had absolutely nothing to go on. I've had a walk around, I haven't seen anything, so I think this is a really good place to start. Now, in this swim, it's quite shallow, so you've sort of got 4 to 5 feet there. There's a load of rushes and snaggy trees there, and also it's sort of sheltered from the wind, so it's a little bit warmer. The sun's going in there quite nicely, so them fish are really going to feel the first sort of warmth of late winter, spring, if you like. Now, with it being shallow, there is a little bit of weed there. It's died off over the winter, so it's not anything drastic, but it is probably a couple of inches off the bottom where it's died down. And how I've combated that is I've gone in with a hinge rig, but there's a few little things I'm doing slightly different to the standard hinge. Nothing sort of groundbreaking, but it's just a few little tweaks that I like to make just to sort of stack the odds in my favour. So that's enough of me talking for now. The next thing I need to do is get my rods out because we've only got 24 hours. So yeah, I'm going to get them out and then run you through the rigs that I'm using. Make sure you stay tuned till the end of this video where you'll have the opportunity to win an amazing prize. So I've got 2 rods out in the swim at the minute, and the reason I've gone for 2 rods as opposed to 3 is it's quite a tight, confined swim, and I think having a 3rd rod will hinder my chances rather than help them. So I'm happy with the 2 rods where they are. As I mentioned before I got the rods out, I'm using a hinge rig. Now, on this hinge rig, I've gone for quite a large boom of about 8 to 9 inches, and it's Camatech soft. The reason for this is that with the hook bait being critically balanced, when that lead lands in the weeds, that hook bait should fall nice and slowly over any low-lying weed, and then that hook link will also follow the contours. If I was to use a stiffer and shorter hook link, then when that lead plugs into the weeds, that hook link could then be dragged in with it and it will sit really unnatural and I'll risk not being presented properly. Now, on the business end here, I've got one of our pre-tied short chod rigs. 2 reasons for using a pre-tied chod rig. Firstly is that I'm very lazy and I'm not going to sit there and tie them up myself. Secondly, and more importantly, they're very quick to get off the disc and get that rod back into action rather than me sitting there tying them up. I could tie them in advance, but it's winter. Like I said, I'm a bit lazy, hands are cold, don't need to do it. Attached to that pre-tied chod is a yellow fluoro pop-up. At this time of year, I'm not using much bait. You know, the fish are just waking up. It's the back end of winter, start of spring. I think that bright yellow hook bait is going to catch their attention and could result in more bites than using a sort of duller, like match the hatch hook bait, if you like. Moving down to the lead end, I've gone for a 2-ounce lead. Reasons for this is that I'm only fishing about 40 yards, so I'm not making big casts, I don't need a heavy lead. Also, by fishing a lighter lead, it's more likely to sit on top of the weed, maybe get pulled in an inch or so, but it's not going to drag right in and in turn dragging the hook link down. Now, one slight difference I do with my hinge rigs, and it's nothing groundbreaking, a lot of people do this, but rather than use a full anti-tangle sleeve, I actually cut off about 8mm. What that does is covers the quick change swivel, so my rig isn't going to come off, it's nice and safe. But by not covering the full swivel, it's given a little bit of movement for that rig. So it's almost like a hinge effect there as well. So when that lead sits on a weed, that rig can nicely fall down, nice and naturally. The anti-tangle sleeve's not pushing it out at an angle, a sort of unnatural angle. So yeah, that's my reason behind that. What I'm going to do now is talk you through a step-by-step on how to tie this rig. So to tie this rig, the first thing you need to do is take a disc of our pre-tied chods. Take one of the chod rigs off of the disc. Next thing to do is to take your Camatech soft, thread the Camatech soft through the flexi ring swivel of the chod rig, and then create a simple overhand knot. Keep the loop a nice size to give that chod rig some freedom. With that knot tied, strip off about 10 inches of Camatech and cut, and then create a simple loop knot in this end of the rig. This is the end that's going to attach to your quick change swivel. Take your chosen pop-up. As I mentioned, for this rig I'm using the yellow fluoro pop-up. Mount this onto your baiting needle and then strip off around 2 to 3 inches of bait floss. Thread the bait floss through the micro hook ring swivel and then carefully mount your bait onto the bait floss using the baiting needle. Pull your pop-up over the barrel of the hook ring swivel. This gives it plenty of movement and aids with the mechanics of the rig. With the pop-up on the bait floss, simply trim and blob the bait floss. Now take some tungsten putty and mould this around the swivel on the chod rig. You can critically balance your hook bait in the margin. I'd recommend adding too much tungsten putty and then taking some away, as once it's wet it's quite difficult to add more on. To complete the rig, cut off around 8mm off of an anti-tangle sleeve and use the baiting needle to slide this onto the loop you've created. It's then a simple process of attaching your rig to your quick change swivel, and as I mentioned, pull the anti-tangle sleeve over the quick change swivel and just check to make sure you've got that movement. So that completes the rig. You can of course tie your own chod sections if you so please, but like I said, I prefer using the pre-tied chod sections just for ease of use. We're quite often told that location is everything in fishing, and it couldn't be more truer in the winter. If you're not on the fish, you're simply not going to catch them. So the areas that I'm looking for, late winter, early spring, are the areas where it's a little bit warmer than the rest of the lake. It's quite a common misconception that fish are always in the deepest part of the lakes in the winter. Whilst this can be true, quite often, if you get a nice sunny day, the fish are venturing up into the shallows or into the upper layers. Now for this reason, zigs can be a devastating tactic late winter and early spring, but just as devastating as that can be fishing in the shallows if you get the right conditions. So as well as the shallows and the upper layers and nice sunny warm days, other features that I'm looking to fish are rushes, trees and low-lying weeds where it's going to hold the last of the naturals, which leads me nicely on to where I'm fishing now. As you can see behind me, I've got a nice set of rushes to fish to, but as well as the rushes, there's also a couple of snaggy trees that I think the fish are going to like to sit in. Now the weather today has varied quite a bit. This morning we had quite flat calm conditions, nice sunny periods, but now it's gone a little bit overcast and the wind's picked up a bit. But this area that I'm actually fishing is sheltered from the winds, which again is going to make it that little bit warmer, a bit more comfortable for the carp. Now that's a brief look at location, why I'm fishing the areas I am, and also why you shouldn't just go to the deepest parts of the lake that you're fishing in the winter. So I was just cooking me and Kieran some burgers. As you can probably tell, to probably get all around me mush. But yeah, just had to take on the right hand rods, which I'm fishing over to them rushes. And it's taken a bit longer than I thought, to be honest. But I'm into a fish. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't got my head torch on, so I won't see it until it's in the net, hopefully. But I'm going to have to move around you, Kieran, because it's getting fairly close now. To comment. can't quite see how big it is. Gotta keep it coming, keep it coming, and yes! There we go. Oh, absolutely buzzing with that. I know that's a bit of a cliche term, but yeah, it's always nice when it comes good. And like I say, I'm meant to be filming Tom, so the pressure's been on me a little bit to try and produce. So yeah, really pleased. But what I'm going to do, I'll pop this in the sink quickly because my burgers are probably burnt, and yeah, we'll get it out in a second and show you. Bite times in winter are pretty localised. You know, you kind of have a couple of hour window. Some lakes aren't like that. Some lakes you can catch them all round, but I know on here the bite times are fairly localised. So I'm going to get this rig straight back out before we get the fish out. And yeah, like I say, little hingey. But basically, call me Tom Maker. I've delivered. Let's go. Cool. And this is the culprit of that bite. I think it's about 18-19 pounds. I'm not going to weigh it, it's a shiny new penny. I think it's come from the match lake over the road. Basically there's a bit of a stocking policy. There's quite a lot of old originals in here, like I say, to over 30 pounds. And obviously to keep, as they pass away, basically the fish from the match lake get put in. Not overstocked, but it just keeps the lake ticking, keeps the stock levels nice. And like I say, this is a nice new penny, which I'm sure this year will go on to over 20, probably up to mid-20s by the end of next year, I'd imagine. It's about 6 o'clock now. We've still got 18 hours left. So there's every chance we could get a couple more. But yeah, really pleased with that. He's not sure. See that leech fly out?
No,
see that leech? Yeah. There he goes. Wrong way, mate. Other way.
Well, good morning. I have some good and some bad news. We'll start with the bad news first. The bad news is that last night was uneventful, which, a bit of a shame, but that's fishing. However, we do still have a couple of hours ahead of us. The good news is, however, that we have an awesome competition for you to win an XL Easy Mat. Now, to win that Easy Mat, you have to do 3 simple steps. The first one is like this video. The second one is subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can do both of those right now whilst I'm still talking. And the third step is to answer this very simple question below. What is the name of the material that I was using for the boom section of the hinge rig? So like I say, pop the answer in the comments below and we will pick a winner within a week of this video going live. Now, as I mentioned, this lake that I'm on is my local club lake, and club lakes are a great alternative if you're not quite ready to make that investment into a syndicate. Now, I've been on this club lake for the past 15 years and it's a place where I've really learned how to fish. Being a gravel pit, it's very weedy, there's a lot of snags and features, and I've really had to adapt how I fish throughout the seasons. One of my favourite forms of fishing is either stalking or surface fishing. I absolutely love that in the summer, and I've had some great success on this lake doing that tactic. Most areas do have local club lakes, so like I say, if you're not quite ready to make that investment, definitely check them out. And most club lakes are really affordable and have little to no waiting list. And when you take into consideration what a day ticket can cost you, you've only got to go to your local club lake a couple of times and you've definitely got your money's worth for the year. Now, I've got a couple of hours left on my session here today, and I've started to receive a few liners on the left-hand rod, so I think it's looking a bit promising. Whether I catch or not before the camera goes is another question, but we'll do our best. There we go. Wow, wow. I was just standing here watching me rods. We just had a change in weather. The rain's all of a sudden gone. It's come over nice and bright and it's actually feeling really warm, really spring-like. And like I say, I just stood over me rods watching, thinking, it just feels right. And the left-hander's just hooped over. And quite fortunately, I was on it, and it's leaving me on a bit of a merry dance at the minute. It's already sort of tail walked out there as if it was some pike or sturgeon. And there we go. What is it? Is it a mirror? I can see it under the water, but I can't quite make out if it's a mirror or common. Stark contrast to the fish yesterday. That common last night just come in like a dog on a lead. Like I say, this one is just starting to flex a bit. Come on, come on, come on. Yes, there we go. So like I say, I think he might be a 20. I'm not quite sure. But let's have a look at his side. He looks quite, some nice scale pattern there. Ah, lovely. What are you saying? Yeah? £24, what a result. Oh, check out that for a February carp. £24, I am so pleased with this one. I think, again, it is one of the newer fish, there's not a mark on it. And interestingly, in the mouth, it is full of leeches, absolutely full of them. So you can tell they must have just started waking up, just started mooching about for food. And that's why I think fishing single pop-ups is definitely the way to go. So 2 bites, 2 fish, in less than 24 hours. I've still got about 3 or 4 hours to go, and I'm pretty confident there's another bite in this yet. As I cast out that rod again, I think I spooked a fish, so it's looking promising. But for now, get a few snaps, pop this one back, and yeah, I think we'll have a cup of tea to celebrate. And back she goes. You're going to be better than the other one. Lovely. Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the session. Haven't managed another fish since that 24-pounder, and everything's packed away. The rods are the last thing I'm going to bring in, as should always be the case. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and you can take something away from it to put into your own angling. If you haven't enjoyed this video, don't worry, because I think I'll be back behind the camera tomorrow. Anyway, before I go, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and answer the question below to be in with a chance of winning that XL Easy Mat.